Yes.
Just want to make sure that we are streaming live. So let me just double check that. I don't see this live yet at the moment. Um, can you check for me if you see it live on YouTube?
It's live on YouTube, yeah.
Can somebody check for me it's live on Facebook? Okay, I think it's
No,
live on Facebook. I on the wrong pages. Hold on, bear with me.
I can't see it on Facebook.
Bear with me. I just need to connect it to Facebook. If you give me one moment.
Yeah.
So if you're watching us on YouTube, we are just about to go live. Bear with us a minute as we connect to our Facebook channels.
So this Zoom chat group is only open to us, everybody.
This is only open to the Hindu Academy team.
Good. Okay, good, good. So it's good. Yeah.
The rest of the viewers watch us on Facebook or YouTube.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, good.
So I'm just connecting right now to the main page. Great. We are now, we should be live on the Hindu Academy page. Okay, I've got confirmation, so we are good to go. Welcome everybody, and thank you for your patience as we were trying to connect both YouTube and Facebook today for our live stream. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the Hindu Academy team. We've got Manish Bhai, Sitaben, we've got Vijay Bhai Hirani, and we've got Keval today. And every Saturday we meet at 2 o'clock UK time. And the idea is to come together and answer your questions on Hinduism. We have people joining us from all over the world. So if you are watching us live, or even if you're watching the replay, take a moment to let us know in the comments area where you're watching us from. And also, if you've got any questions, you can put them in the comments area on YouTube or on the Facebook page, and we will pick them up and try and answer your questions live on air. So I'll get started with Manish Bhai, who's got a couple of questions. So Manish Bhai, take it away.
Okay, first question is for Sita. Jai Bhai just did sent videos to people about sin. So the question is, how the idea, there's no idea of sin in Hinduism. And a person of Christian origin said, what about those who are rapists and murderers? Is that not sin? Are they not sinners?
Hinduism actually has quite a different take on the idea of sin. So the first thing is we actually don't believe in the idea of sin. We believe that sometimes people can get misguided, they can go on the wrong path and that kind of thing, but there's no idea of an original sin, which is prevalent in Christianity. And also the idea that, for example, Adam took a bite of the apple and that was the original sin. So Hinduism doesn't have that kind of a take. It's very different. I mean, possibly the reason why this idea of sin came about in Abrahamic traditions is just to kind of keep people a bit more in line. It's a ploy to kind of even the idea of having Christ being crucified and absolving the sins of humanity, it doesn't really seem fair on poor Christ to do something like that. So Hinduism actually believes that there is no such thing as sin, and there is no idea of heaven and hell. So if you do lots of sin, then you go to hell. There's no such belief like that. Or there's also no belief that, suppose you don't believe in Christianity or any of the Abrahamic traditions, that you would go to hell. There's no such idea like that. Hinduism says that yes, people do certain things which are not sort of considered ethically and morally correct, but they are just sort of misguided individuals. They may have gone through lots of suffering, lots of different things in their life which are not necessarily like part of their character, but have just caused them to become quite disturbed individuals. And they do these things without really sort of recognizing that this is going against their true nature. And we actually, Hinduism offers a sort of moral compass. It says anything that you do which makes you feel like you're going towards your true nature, that's something good. And anything which makes you feel like it's taking you away from your true nature, that's considered to be not so good. But there's no sort of black and white idea of sin and no sin. People go on misguided pathways because they've gone through all sorts of traumas, all sorts of things which are unfortunate, and this is unfortunately the way the world is, but there's no idea of sin, and there's no idea of forgiving sin. There's no sin at all. I think that helps.
Yes, thank you for that, Sitaben. Staying with the idea of sin, how does we have no sin? So the only thing we have is the law of karma and the effect of karma on our characters. How does that relate to the idea of sin?
So I think with the idea of sin, it's much more sort of black and white, whereas with the law of karma, there's lots of different shades of grey. So with the law of karma, Hindus also have a habit of simplifying it a bit too much. So say, for example, there's somebody who's got some kind of disability. It's very easy to simplify law of karma too much to say, oh, they must have done something bad, which is why they've got this disability. That's totally a misunderstanding of the law of karma, and it's a very dangerous misunderstanding, because that's not what the law of karma is promoting. The law of karma says there are a lot of different factors involved in our lives. So there are a lot of different factors for all of us to be sitting here and doing this meeting at the moment. Lots of things happened and haven't happened for it to come into place. And it's not just a simple black and white, oh, because I did this, this is what happens. There are a lot of different factors involved. So from our character, from our previous life, from what other people are doing around us, from our environment. So it can't be a simple, A leads to B. It's lots of complex factors. And this is what we have to realize. When we correctly understand the law of karma, we can get rid of a lot of these negative effects of these misunderstandings of the law of karma. So, for example, you have the idea of fatalism, which is a very dangerous belief, because fatalism says, oh, there's lots of bad things happening in my life right now. I feel like just curling up in the corner and dying. So all of these things are wrong, because law of karma says, okay, these things have happened. Sometimes things have a habit of ganging up against us in our life, and it's not our fault necessarily. There's lots of other factors, our environment, the people around us, all sorts of things going on. And it's our duty, the law of karma says, to stand up and fight against all of these inconveniences, all of these suffering, whatever it is that we're going through. So that's the correct way of understanding the law of karma. Another misunderstanding is saying you see somebody in a disadvantaged situation. That is not an excuse to say they must have done something bad in their past life. That is completely wrong and immoral to say anything like that, because we don't know what has happened in their life. There could be all sorts of other factors, the environment, people around them, which have caused things to happen for that person. But it's our responsibility when we see somebody who is disadvantaged to then offer our hand and do everything we can to resolve it and help them in as best a way as we can. Otherwise, we're creating bad karma for ourselves. So if we correctly understand the law of karma, we can definitely help ourselves and help the people around us who are in need of help. So I hope that helps.
Yep, thank you, Sita. Next question live from YouTube is to Vijay Bhai. From Alok Bajpai. Sir, why do you think God created life on earth as we know it? And what is the purpose of life? Yeah, okay, good question. So the thing is this, that first of all, a couple of points to clarify. Hindus believe that we are already divine in our nature. And basically what we are in currently is kind of a material journey. So there is kind of two answers we have. If you look at some traditions, they say it's God's Leela, means it's kind of God's play, that the world is created so that we can inhabit it, or at least a way to kind of praise him and worship him. That's one way of looking at it. So that's one idea. The other idea is that the idea of Maya, which is mainly with the Advaita tradition, which is that actually all this is actually abhas, means illusion. So we feel that we are here, stuck here, but actually we are already free. So the idea is that this is kind of veil that covers us. And the instant we see the veil come out, then we are totally free. Of course, there are a lot of deep philosophical questions on that. Why do we see the same world? Why is everybody experience are really real? But it's a very tricky question. And the main thing to realize is that actually we are divine beings stuck in a material journey and kind of trying to come out. There have been very deep philosophical discussions on this with Ramanuja, Shankara. They've gone in deep detail on how the kalpa works and how every time the life creates, all the souls in the inner state come again, fulfill their karmas, and they go out again. So it goes on and on, kind of a cycle like that. It's kind of a cycle. So the idea of creation is part of that cycle. So there is not clear answer on that as such. So that's all I can say for the moment. Yeah, it's basically, as I said again, either it's illusory, but we have to transcend it, or it's part of God's leela. That's the kind of two answers we get. It's not the best answer, but that's the kind of answers we have for that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay Bhai. Moving on to criticism of Hinduism now is addressed to Sita. So a couple of criticisms were linked, but I'll just say one at a time. The first one, it says outsiders labeled Hindus as Hindus. If not for Britain, India would be a land of multiple religions in the place of the one religion we know as Hinduism today. How would we be able to address that?
I disagree with that statement. Hinduism is actually a religion which is very inclusive. It's very broad-minded, and one of our key teachings is the idea of pluralism. That's one of the foundations of Hinduism. The idea that you can make spiritual progress in a variety of different ways, not just through Hinduism or through the various sects and institutions within Hinduism. You can become spiritually enlightened through all the religions: Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism. All sorts of religions are welcome in India, and throughout the history of India, we welcomed people of other religions into India and incorporated them beautifully into our way of life. One example is the Zoroastrian tradition. They were persecuted, they came from the Middle East, they came to India, and they found a home there. They blended extremely well with the local community, and there was no imposition on them to, convert to Hinduism. There's nothing like that. Actually, Hinduism is one of the few religions which has never gone out to convert other people. So, we have a very open tradition, and there's nothing to say that, it was possibly just because the majority of the population is of Hindu origin, of Hinduism. So that's the only reason why it can be claimed as a Hindu nation. But Hinduism has been India has been very inclusive, very well integrating lots of other traditions. Actually, I remember a story with the Zoroastrian tradition. So the people came over to India, and the local king in India said, "Oh, how are you going to integrate with our society, with our community?" And the Zoroastrian king brought out a glass of milk and some sugar, and he blended the milk and the sugar together, and he said, just in the way that this milk and sugar is incorporated and become nicer as a result of the mixing, so we will also mix well in the community, and it will be of greater benefit to both of us.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think you've answered the second part as well, I think, but I'll just mention it anyway. So the second part of the question criticism was Sanskrit Hindus are trying to absorb other cultures within India, claiming superiority under the Varna system. That's the criticism, really.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can say that obviously there are people who think Hinduism is the best way, but obviously it's the best way for them. And we do not impose our ideas on anybody else or try and display our superiority to anybody else. The Varna system is very outdated. It's no longer applicable to society at the moment. So I think that those Hindus, the small minority of Hindus, whoever they are, they just need to broaden their vision and accept everybody for who they are, because that's the essence of Hinduism. Super.
Thank you for that, Sita. Next question is from WhatsApp sent by a user previously. It's for Vijay Bhai. The question is, why so many avatars needed? Isn't one enough? He's God, right? So coming just once would be enough, like Jesus. Coming again, why? If he's God, one arrival should be enough. So what's your answer to that, please?
Okay, first of all, I think coming only once is not a good idea, because think about it, as society is changing and evolving, the message has to be contextual to that particular time and place. So what was right at the time of Jesus may not be right now. And I think if you remain stuck in one place and don't progress, then I think what happens is that people will the message will slowly fade away. I mean, for example, if you look in the West now, many people are living some of the teachings of Christianity, not all, like the idea of, Adam and Eve, because I think evolution makes more sense. So then they find the message kind of outdated. Perhaps at that time, it made sense to talk about Adam and Eve because that's the way people understood it. But now as time has changed, people's views change, it sort of evolves. So in order to refresh the message again and again, it's better that you have different avatars coming to refresh the message in that particular context and time. For example, even the Gita actually says that, it says, yada yada hi dharmasya. So whenever there's adharma, I come and establish dharma again. So the whole idea is that come and pass the message and refresh the society again and mold it in the way they see the world at that time, not something quite old. Another example is that I know that a lot of people from the LGBT community, they find sometimes that something in the Bible doesn't make sense to them. The interpretation, even the interpretation also changed because people have new ideas, new knowledge. So keeping something stuck, I'm not saying it's a very good book, but as time goes by, it's better to have Jesus coming again and again, so to say, to refresh the message for everybody this time. So I think in that sense, Hinduism prefers to have message being refreshed time and again for society. Yeah.
Super. Thank you for that answer, Vijay Bhai. So staying with this avatar concept, another question was, all Hindu avatars came only to India and nearby regions. Why not Europe or America? Isn't Sanatan Dharma eternal religion? So it should be everywhere. So why is there no avatar in Europe and America?
Is it for me to answer as well?
Yes,
okay.
please. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. The thing is that, first of all, I think in India, people have always seen divine avatars. They always have noticed avatars. Even think about it, when Ram was in India, you could remember very few people actually saw him as divine God. It's only afterwards that a lot of people started understanding it. I don't know, perhaps in the West, there may have been avatars. People didn't notice, yeah. But on a slightly a side note, Jesus did come in the West, yes. But what did people do? They crucified him, yes. So God says, okay, you know what? I just stay in India. Well, that's just sidetracking. But I think there have been divine people, even gods, maybe avatars, in all places. It's just people haven't been documented in the West, I guess. But I think in India, because avatars have all been documented in the Purans, that's why we have visibility of them. So I don't think we can say it's not everywhere. I don't know. But at least in India, we have documented proof that avatars are there. That's all I can say on that particular question. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Vijay Bhai. Next question to Sita from Kushi Mallikarjun. Where does the source of morals come from if there is no sin? And who determines what's going towards or away from your true nature? Who determines what's misguided?
Well, Hinduism gives a lot of, is quite empowering, and it tells us that we are, our conscience is our own guide. So we are the moral compass. So whatever because the thing with Hinduism is we teach that our essential nature is spirit, it's Atman. So Atman is part of us. So we've all got that inside us. So we are essentially our own moral compass. So when it comes to any kind of issues which can be, I don't know, controversial or difficult, so a lot of social issues like abortion, euthanasia, all of these kind of social issues that people come across in their day-to-day lives. And it's very difficult to know what the right thing to do is in these kind of situations. So Hinduism actually says, look, you are essentially divine, and what's inside you is going to guide you to do the best thing that's right for that particular circumstance or situation. So yes, our conscience is our guide. And the thing is, the true test of saying if that's the right thing or the wrong thing is if you feel good after that particular decision, making that particular decision, then you know that you've done something which is perhaps the right thing to do. Although even the idea of right and wrong is a mental construct, really. It's all just depending. You have to do what you feel is the most spiritually aligned, choice, really. So even the idea of right and wrong is a mental construct, but we have to go with our spirit, what our spirit is telling us inside us. I hope that answers.
Yeah, great, Sita. Next question is very, very tricky. It's to Vijay Bhai. I don't know if it's not something like Jay Lakhani talks about a lot. So the question is from Saptarishi Bhattacharya. How did the transition from metaphysical to first physical entity occur?
Okay. Metaphysical to physical. I think the thing is that in that sense, we have always been metaphysical, so to say, because the Atman is not of a material existence. The thing is that I would go back to the idea of what do you call Sankhya Darshan of Kapil Muni, where we said that actually he believes there's two ideas in this world: the Prakriti and Purusha. The Purushaya is the the divine principle, which is the Atman, transcends matter, and then you have the Prakriti, which is creation. Now, creation in this case involves everything, involves matter, intelligence, mind. They're all seen as part of creation, because even intelligence and mind are part of matter because they are bound by time. But the Purushaya, it transcends, space, time, and causation. And he said that at the point where these three forces of the matter kind of go out of balance, the Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, three gunas, qualities, at that point when the Purushaya kind of mixes with that, he feels that I'm part of the material world. The key issue is that at some point during creation, the metaphysical, the true Purusha, which is transcending everything, became part of the material world. And now he's trying to get out of it to see its true nature. So that's a transition, I think, that from Purushaya to kind of the material existence. Yeah, very tricky question. Yes, there are many views on that. So yeah, just one view. Okay.
Hey, thank you for that, Vijay Bhai. Next question is for Sita. This is again from WhatsApp that we received from a viewer. The question is about unjustified wounds or curses. The viewer, he's relating to the idea that in our Puranas and stories, sometimes Siva gives a boon to someone and then that person turns wicked and start doing bad things, and then the God has to come incarnate on earth and saves the humanity. So he's asking, how can a Rishi or God person give a curse to someone or a boon to someone? Isn't he a good guy? And similarly, how can God grant powers to Danavas? Isn't that stupid? So yeah, it's basically that question. Why this thing?
So the important thing is to remember where those set of stories came from. And these set of stories came from Smriti scriptures, so scriptures of lower authority. They're not the philosophic heart of Hinduism. They are colourful narratives and stories, which are really nice for when we are, growing up. We're learning about Hinduism. We're children. We're learning, and it's nice to have these colourful stories, which can sort of attract us towards religion. And then when we are older, we can then focus on the philosophy and the deeper sort of ideas. So the important thing to remember is these are just colourful stories. This is not what Hinduism promotes, that there are absolute curses and boons and this and that. That's not what Hinduism is all about. So this is just colourful narratives for children, for people learning about Hinduism, to be attracted to the ideas. So, I mean, it's not something new. I mean, even modern day, we have all these kind of superheroes who people have got superhuman powers and they can do this and this, they can do all sorts of magical things. And it doesn't mean that, oh, we actually believe that's true. We take them for stories. So we have to understand where these things came from. They're not the philosophy of Hinduism. Nobody believes you can curse or boon or this and that in reality. These are just wonderful stories for children, for people learning about Hinduism, to feel attracted and say, wow, there's all sorts of magical things happening. But then we can then develop and focus on the spiritual and the philosophical heart as we grow older and mature.
Super. That's a super answer, Sita. Next question is for Vijay Bhai. So Vijay Bhai, in Vedas, there is a mention of a somras or soma juice. Could you please tell us what this soma juice is? And is there a way for us to make some, maybe use that for our purposes?
Okay. Okay. First of all, I think one thing to realize about the Vedic scripture is that they are vast in nature. I mean, the beauty about the Vedic scripture is this, that almost all the different kinds of experiences mankind have kind of aspired to through the ages, they're all in the Vedic scriptures. And that's the beauty about it. It's like an encyclopedia. So the idea of the soma juice, which is kind of a hallucinating juice. By the way, soma is also linked to the moon as well. It's seen as moon is seen as soma as well, the house store of this elixir. The thing is that it's not only in Hinduism, but if you look at the entire shamanic tradition, which is one of the earliest beliefs of man, you look at Americas, or if you look at even in Africa, in the Papua New Guinea, they've always had this kind of special hallucinating juice to give them the power to kind of get out of body experiences. So what the Vedas does, it documents those as well with the idea of the soma to see how we can get a glimpse of the divine. But remember one thing, that the soma is only short-lived. Yes, if you like soma, if any experience you get of divine, even if you do, it's very short-lived. But then actually it's mentioned in the Vedas because it's part of the ancient Hindu tradition. What I would say is, please don't take it today, because I know nowadays there are far more stronger drugs as well for that kind of idea. But the thing is, it's documented because it's part of our tradition, our vast Hindu tradition. So I think take it in a historical context. Don't make it modern. Don't go out, okay, now I'm looking for so much juice. I want to have this nice out of body experience. So be careful with that. Yeah. Okay, that's it, I think. Yeah.
Great. Don't try at home. Next question to Sita. It's really more of a confusion, I think, created. So it's from Tashi Lamo. Says, I feel it's really difficult to survive this Kali Yuga, even with the realization of Atman and Brahman. So I think the confusion is probably the word realization. What does that mean?
Okay, so the first thing is that I'd like to address is that the idea of all these yugas, again, comes from the Smriti scriptures. So we don't believe that, there was a golden period and, everything has become worse and worse and worse since then. So we just have to live in the here and now and focus on our environment and how things are at the moment. Actually, I mean, I personally, it's my own opinion, think it's probably easier now to focus on spirituality and becoming enlightened, because we no longer have all the physical forces of nature to fight with. Suppose you're a caveman and you have to try and fight to have a shelter, have a roof over your head, have some food, you have to go out and hunt it. So actually, we've got it much easier now. We can go to the supermarket and get whatever we want. We've got running water. We've got all sorts of things. Our physical needs are fully addressed at the moment. So we actually have the, the luxury of focusing on our inner development now. So I personally think that now is probably one of the best times in the history of humanity to be able to focus on spirituality, because we've got the luxury of all of these amenities, and we should take advantage of that.
Yeah, great. Next question, very simple question to Vijay Bhai from Khushbu Rawal. What is the difference in Brahman and Purusha as mentioned in the Gita?
Yeah, I think the Purusha has been explained quite a different way, but I think I would say that they are in a way very similar. Yes, so the Purusha idea comes again, as I mentioned earlier, from the Sankhya Darshan, where they, for the first time, the ancient Acharya Kapil meant to make two distinctions between matter and the idea of the spirit. Yeah, so the spirit is seen as the whole spirit in one whole spirit. Everybody is part of the Purusha. Yeah? When the word Atman comes, Atman can be now seen as in different ways. It can be seen as separate from Brahman, separate from the Atman. So in many ways, Purusha is a more general word, includes everything. Atman, Brahman, entire thing is seen as a Purusha, yeah, the kind of the ultimate, yeah. And then the Brahman now comes as well. So Brahman can be seen as the manifestation of the manifestation of the supreme ultimate reality as the universe as such, and Atman as a subjective manifestation within us. So as a distinction, Brahman kind of becomes a more distinctive word than Purusha. Purusha has always been used as a much more generic word in that sense. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it. They're very similar in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Vijay Bhai. Next question is from Vishnu Nivesh Tatwarthi for Sitaben. He's asked, would you please clear the meaning of the sloka from the Isa Upanishad? Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. And the second question someone asked was, why Purna and not Sunya?
Okay. So the Purnamada shloka is basically saying this is perfect, that is perfect, perfect comes from perfect, take perfect from perfect, and the remainder is perfect. So actually, you can tell that this is written by somebody who is spiritually enlightened, because all they can see is perfection. Everywhere they can see, all they see is perfection. Because underneath all of the imperfection, which is what we all see, our normal people see, there is great perfection. So somebody who is enlightened can talk like that. So it's saying whatever you do, and you do take this and you bring this, you put this in, it's actually all perfect. And that's what this particular shloka is all about. In terms of the idea of shunya, I think that's more sort of like closer towards Buddhism. So shunya is like this idea of nirvana and all of that is technically different. I mean, ultimately the same, but technically different, because nirvana is the idea of just sort of you lose your individuality, you lose your whole sense of who you are. Whereas in Hinduism, the idea of moksha is like you achieve your true identity, you find out who you truly are. So that's actually just a technicality, but ultimately they are the same thing. So I hope that answers the question.
Sounds good, Sitaben. So yeah, I think mathematically speaking, when we look at the Purna, it would equate to more like infinite rather than finite or zero.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. Next question is from Vijay Bhai from Sailaja KM. She asks, does the concept of angels sending messages to people on earth exist in Hinduism?
Well, we all angels, yes. So the idea of an angel coming down, it's not the case. I mean, I think Hinduism sees things differently, because actually all Indic faiths, also Jainism, Buddhism, are similar in the sense that we are all divine. Even the rishis of India, they're actually enlightened beings. So they've achieved, self-realization, and they're passing that message to us. So in that sense, the idea that there's somebody more special than us, say between God and humans, that does not exist. That concept doesn't exist. In fact, all of us humans can actually rise to the level of angels. And that's the kind of the goal. So the message is already there within us. We just go discover it. So the tech is very different in that sense. I think the Abrahamic faith, the angel is a bit more very common in the Abrahamic faith. I guess in Hinduism, we have the idea of devas and whatever who are higher demigods. But that's a different kind of story from the Purans. But generally, the idea of angels giving us a message from God as an intermediary doesn't accept, because we can get it directly through intuition or through our own self-realization or through our own effort. So yes, in that sense, there is no concept of angel. We are all angels. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai. Next question to Sita from Kumaril Dave. Many times, bad things, words or actions of past keep disturbing our mental peace, especially while meditating. What are the ways to do penance or prayashchit for this?
Yes, so I mean, this is a problem that all of us face, and I've tried meditating, and I come across all sorts of distractions and things that have happened in the past, which your mind just kind of drifts back to them. And even though you try and pull it back to the present moment and thinking about God, it's very easy for your mind to drift back. And there's a lot of descriptions in Hindu philosophy about the state of our mind. And there's actually, I think one of the Upanishads talks about the mind being like a monkey that's drunk and, all sorts of things. Like your mind is just restless, essentially. And the practice of Raj Yoga gives us some kind of guidance on how we can control the mind. And there's a really nice metaphor provided, which says the way that our mind is in the current state, it's like choppy water. And then when we try and look at our reflection in the choppy water, that's a completely distorted vision of who we are. So the whole purpose of yoga is trying to calm the mind so still that there are no waves. And when you look at you reflect on yourself, you can actually see a true reflection of yourself rather than a distorted, choppy version. And Raj Yoga actually offers a number of disciplines, mental disciplines, which we have to follow before we're even ready to sit down to meditate. And I won't go into all of them now because it's very complicated, but there's like disciplines such as Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, Aparigraha, Brahmacharya. So these things are like truth, non-violence, keeping tidy, there's so many disciplines, 10 sets of disciplines you have to follow before you're even considered fit to sit down to meditate. So I suggest it's probably good to, even if you focus on one of these disciplines for the rest of your life, you've made significant progress. For example, if you just focus on being completely truthful, so whatever you think, you say, you do, it all comes into line all the time. You make great spiritual progress. So the Raj Yoga system is very powerful in that even if you follow one of the disciplines, you've made great spiritual progress. So that's some way that we can try and calm our minds, but it's a very, very difficult task.
Great, thank you very much. Next to Vijay Bhai, question from Bharat Saurav. What is your ideal type of Hinduism? How should Hinduism evolve?
Well, there is no ideal type of Hinduism as such, because Hinduism accepts that everybody is different in their character and aptitude and understanding. So different Hindus will see the idea of searching for the divine in different ways. I mean, as you know, there's the Bhakti Marg, Karma Marg, Gyan Marg. So if you're somebody who's very active and likes passionate about work, then he will try and do selfless action, which eventually will make him see God in every human being everywhere, and basically serving God. That's one way of doing it. And of course the Bhakti Marg, and the different pathways. So we can't really say that there is a perfect idea of Hinduism. I think we also got to remember that Hinduism is just a tag for the people of India as such, on the subcontinent. As you know, the kind of word is Sanatana Dharma is universal. So in many ways, through music, art, there's so many ways to kind of get spiritual. So I would say the ideal Hindu to me is somebody who accepts that there are many different ways to spirituality, and everybody should be able to practice what suits them best to achieve that goal. Yeah, that's kind of it, I think.
Super. Thank you for that answer, Vijay Bhai. Next question is from Kushi Mallikarjun. This is for Sita. We're going back to the sin. She's asking, what is the source of moral if there aren't any sins?
Yeah, so I guess it's similar to what I said earlier. I don't know how much more I can add to it. So basically, we are all essentially a manifestation of spirit, and we are our own moral compass. Our conscience is our best guide. So Hinduism says that whatever you personally feel is the best decision is going to be the best decision. There's no sort of God up in the heaven telling us this is wrong and this is right. Haha. You just have to do what you feel is best in that particular circumstance. And our conscience is our best guide. Whatever takes us closer to our true nature is spiritual, and what takes us away from our true nature is spiritual. And there's all sorts of people get misguided. They go on all sorts of roundabout routes, but they'll hopefully eventually get to the goal of realizing their true self. That helps.
Right. That's great answer. I think you answered the next question that she had, that who determines what is going toward or away from true nature. We ourselves need to decide what needs to be done, and we are our own guide. And that is the best way, I think. And eventually, even by the way, straight or crooked route, we reach finally the same destination. Great answer there. Next question is for Vijay Bhai. If karma is based on subjective morals, then what is good karma or a bad karma?
Okay. So good karma, I mean, the thing less, there's the idea that there's kind of objective answers to morality. It's not true. As Sita said, it's a subjective because most moral guide. You can't put an objective kind of um, a view on what should be morals or not. It's just not possible because all societies are different. What is moral in this country is not moral in, say, the Middle East or India. It's just, you can't pin it down. It's very subjective. So what I would say is that good karma is thing that helps not only you, but everybody else move forward to this kind of your spiritual journey. If you do that, then that's good karma. No matter how you do, if you help somebody, feed somebody, which makes person less hungry, that's a good deed. It helps you to move forward in your journey. So anything that actually makes you achieve moksha on that path is good karma, so to say. If you feel something is very bad or negative and makes you step backwards, that's kind of bad karma, I guess. Yeah. So no direct link as such. So as I said, it depends. Which it's just not. I mean, there are many law books in India, no doubt. Manusmriti, all, but they're all contextual. They actually make it very clear that our message is contextually in a particular place, and they don't apply it through all time and all space. It doesn't work like that. So what I would say is that do deeds which help everybody progress spiritually forward. Yes, that's kind of good karma. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai. Next question is similar to Sita from Vaishnavi Yadav. I believe in God. My question is, how does past karma vanish, or does it not vanish by chanting? So does chanting work?
Okay, so I mean, I think it's a very difficult question to answer because how do you know if a particular result has happened because of a result of something else? So, like I was saying, the law of karma is extremely complex, more complex than we can even imagine. So, saying, oh, this particular karma has been wiped out or not wiped out, there's no real way of knowing. The only thing that we can do in our current circumstance is to say, let me just do the best that I can all the time, as much as I can. So yes, doing prayers and chanting is obviously good karma. So that's obviously going to be of help to you. But to know whether it's wiped out another karma or whatever, it's very, very difficult, almost impossible to really know. So we can just do the best that we can, our best karma that we can at the current moment. So that's all I can suggest.
Thank you, Sita. Vijay Bhai, question for you from a viewer on WhatsApp. Where does the idea of man being in Stone Age, being hunter and gatherer, match in with the yugas? Satyug, Tretayug, Dwaparyug, Kaliyug. Where would the Stone Age fit in?
Okay, I know I'll get flack for this, but I'll just say it anyway. Those ideas of the four yugas we have, the Satyug, which was supposed to last, I think, Some people say 100,000 years. Then you have Treta, which is like 10,000 years lifespan. These are all part of the mythological kind of the Puranic scriptures. So the idea is that it's not there. But if you look at history of, if you look at reality, there were stone men. Yeah, there were Stone Age people. That's no doubt. I mean, the fact is that if you look at evolution, and it's a fact. I mean, a lot of people say it's a theory. It's not true. Evolution is a fact, whether we like it or not. So I think in India, for millennia, people have written so many scriptures, and some scriptures mention the idea. It helps in some ways to show that some people feel that, okay, there was good times, not. But Sita said, I think at this time we are living in the best of times. If you look at it in a nice way, then it's the best of times. So it doesn't fit. That's a simple answer. The fact is, caveman is true. The stories of Treta Yuga, Dwapara, these are all part of our scriptures, but it doesn't fit reality in that sense. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of straight answer, but that's it. Yeah.
Keval, I think it's back to you. Manish Bhai seems to have dropped off the call.
Okay, yeah. So next question is a question on differentiating between traditional habits and religious duties. It's from A. Joshi. How would you differentiate between traditional habits from religious duties? I guess to Sita.
Okay, so I think the best sort of guide is saying, is this something that's going to be of great benefit to people, or is it just a ritual which is just performed for the sake of performing it? So say, for example, you know, it's you want to donate and do lots of good work. That's obviously dharma, that's fulfilling your duty. But if there is a particular ritual which has been performed, you know, 500 years ago or whatever, and it's maybe not so relevant to society now, then maybe that's something that can be dropped. So Hinduism is constantly evolving. We have to obviously keep focusing on activities which fulfill our religious duties. And there are certain things which people used to do in ancient India which are not so relevant anymore. So we just have to look at it objectively and say, do we need to keep performing these rituals which, for example, maybe praising all the sort of sun god and wind god and all of that? People don't really sort of follow that so much these days. So maybe it's time to focus on another ritual which focuses on something which is a bit more relevant. So Hinduism keeps evolving, and we have to sort of look at things objectively and say, what do we focus on doing and what can we drop, I guess. So I hope that helps.
Manish Bhai, did you have any further questions?
Next question for Vijay Bhai. Is from Vinod Wag. He's saying, don't we need guru to guide us? Do we need guru? And how do we find a guru? I think I might as well add that.
Okay, it's very hard these days. I think because there's so many gurus around, it's so difficult to choose. But if you find a guru who can help you spiritually, so be it. I mean, you choose a guru, but remember one thing, that always use your rational faculties. Keep them in mind. Yes. Even if a guru says something which you don't agree with, then don't agree with it. I mean, I have many mentors. I mean, Jay Bhai is one of my mentors, but I don't agree with all things. Sometimes I don't agree with him, but that's okay too. So I think the thing is that if you find a guru, so be it. If you know, then please remember one thing, that the best guru, the ultimate guru, is actually yourself. Yeah, you are your own master, and that's very hard sometimes because people have a difficulty with that. They think, well, you know, I'm already struggling. Why I want somebody else to help him? But remember, even then, you are the best guru. So even a scripture can be a guru in some sense, if it gives you guidance. So we need a guru to guide us, but how it comes to you, that's a different story. It could be your own intuition, meditation, a real person. So there's no clear-cut answer, but please be careful choosing a guru. I would say that 99% are just not really genuine gurus. Yeah, that's all I can say on that question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay Bhai. That's a short question from Mary Floyd. Will you be teaching the Gita like you did with the Hindu Academy online courses? If so, where do we enroll? I think it's Vijay.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, we have done only chapter 3 because that's part of our syllabus. But no, we haven't planned any classes yet. But maybe something to think about. Yes, but not yet because we quite already overwhelmed with a lot of other stuff at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, great. I think maybe final question to Sita, perhaps. So we're getting a couple of questions on Hanuman and Ganesh. So the question on Ganesh is, how did he get the elephant head? And question on Hanuman, did he really eat the sun? So these are both from YouTube.
Okay. So again, for example, with the story of Hanuman swallowing the sun, again, we have to look at the source of where that story came from. It came from the Smriti scriptures, so scriptures which are man-made of no authority, which are the ones which have the colourful stories in them. So again, we have to look at it objectively and say, surely nobody believed that Hanuman could literally go and swallow the sun. That's not, it doesn't fit with our rationality. We just have to treat it as a colourful story. And we get all sorts of colourful stories even in today's society. You get Harry Potter, you get Star Wars. So this is just the ancient Indian colourful stories that we had. And they inspire love and admiration for all of these wonderful deities that we have in Hinduism. They can attract people to spirituality and to religion. So we have to understand them for what they are. And in terms of the story of Ganesh and the elephant head, there is a story again from the Purans, which talks about how Ganesh got his head chopped off and all of that. And again, it's not nice if you think of it as being literally true. Again, we have to see it for what it is. It's a colourful story where all sorts of things happen, and we just have to understand that it helps us sort of get attracted to religion and spirituality. And also another thing I'd like to bring in is the idea of incorporating animal features into deities. A lot of people find it to be very strange and what kind of a religion is this? But actually what Hinduism does by incorporating these elephant head and monkeys into our images of deities, we're actually elevating the animal kingdom to the level of the divine. So we are recognizing that the animal kingdom is just as important, it's just as spiritual as everyone else. So we're elevating the status of the animal kingdom to the level of the divine. And it's not something to be looked down on, but something to be proud of, I think.
Right, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on the call today. We are almost at about 53 minutes on the call. We've had lots of interactive sessions today on Facebook and YouTube with a huge amount of interesting questions that we've been trying to answer. If your question hasn't been answered yet, don't worry, we are keeping it aside and we will pick it up on the next session. We'll start with those first. And so with that, I'd like to wish you all a very great week ahead. Thank you to my fellow presenters here at Hindu Academy. We've got Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai, Keval, and Manish Bhai. Thank you for all your help and support on this project. And before I go, I'd like to end with a quote from Swami Vivekananda. And the quote is this, that the will is not free. It is a phenomenon bound by cause and effect. But there is something behind the will which is free. So with that, I wish you guys all a very great week ahead, and we will see you next week on Saturday, 2 o'clock UK time. Bye-bye for now.